It is the year 1280, and a young Anatolian Turkoman by the name of Osman is having a dream. A full moon sets itself down in Osman's body, and from his body emerges a mighty tree. It starts to grow, and eventually its roots and branches spread across 3 continents. That tree, of course, is the Ottoman Empire. Young Osman would go on to declare independence from the crumbling Seljuk state in 1299, and his successors would build up the empire until it became the predominant power in the Middle East and the Mediterranean. And today we will accomplish that very same dream and make Osman Gazi proud. But we will accomplish in 10 years what Osman's successors could not do in 100. We will conquer all of Anatolia and the Balkans by the year 1350. Welcome to the War Room. Just to give you a quick sneak peek of what I mean by all of Anatolia and the Balkans in 10 years, as you can see, it is the year 1345. It's only been 8 years since the start of the game, and our empire stretches across 2 continents. Not only have we managed to capture most of Anatolia, the only holdouts are the Eretned Rump state here and a couple small beyliks over here in the Janik area. We have also managed to beat the Byzantines and fully annex all of their lands. We have fully annexed all of Bulgaria. We have fully annexed all of Serbia, and Wallachia is our vassal. And also Epirus too. So the only Balkan holdouts, if we were to go to regions over here, the only Balkan holdouts are Hungarian and Bosnian lands over here, and Albania, Achaea, and Athens, who will incidentally be our next targets for conquest. And if we look at our economy, well, we're doing pretty fine actually. We got a decent bit of gold reserves. We have okay income. Our expenses are a bit large. As you can see, we're spending 17 ducats per month on diplomatic spending. But at the same time, we also don't really control anything over here. So once we vassalize Serbia and Bulgaria, once we release a few fiefdoms over here, our economy situation will be much, much stronger. And overall, this is a very stable game. We have the 2nd highest population in Europe. And in fact, we are rivaling the Mamluks in terms of population as well. So we are fairly close to them. And soon enough, we will surpass all of them in order to become the greatest empire in Europe and in the Middle East. Now, we're going to return to the start of the game, and I'm going to show you, step by step, how you can get to this point, at this moment, in only 8 years' time. Here we are on the 1st of April, 1337, and as you can see, we're a teeny tiny little beylik compared to what we will become in less than 10 years. So we only control about 20-30 provinces in northwestern Anatolia. We're definitely smaller than the Eretnids, both population-wise and location-wise, as well as the Karamanids, although we have more people living in our lands thanks to the influence of Bursa, Iznik, and Izmit, so this urbanized region over here. As the Ottomans, you want to start by going to your government screen, giving autocracy for the extra crown power, and giving diplomatic traditions for the extra diprep and diplomatic capacity. And then we have some privileges that we want to hand out. So to the Guzat, you want to give the Auxilium et Consilium privilege, which gives extra levy size and combat efficiency. In addition, you can also give them the Elite Council for extra stability decay and agenda impact. And to the burghers, you 100% want to give the urban development grants, and you want to keep this on for the entire game because it gives extra monthly development to all of your locations, which is extremely strong, as well as some innovative push. And then you usually want to give them treasury rights as well, which gives an extra 10% tax efficiency, innovative push, and a bit of bank interest, although you won't be taking many loans in the early period, hopefully. Now for the other burgher privileges, there are quite a few good ones actually, so you can give them control over coinage, you can give them guild investments for the innovative and capital economy push, You can give them land of commerce for the production efficiency, but all of these will cost legitimacy, and legitimacy is going to be in somewhat short supply for now, so we're going to keep them like this. And as you can see, the ulama are somewhat dissatisfied, which tanks our diprap and research progress a little, so we're going to give them expansionist zealotry, which pushes us towards belligerent, and gives them a bit of satisfaction and a tiny bit of satisfaction equilibrium, just enough to get them above 50%. Now, after this we want to go to our cabinet. We want to appoint our heir, Osmanoğlu Süleyman Pasha, to the cabinet. You might be tempted to get Osmanoğlu Alaaddin, who has god-level stats as well. Unfortunately, he's 56 years old. He's actually our ruler's older brother, so he's probably going to die off very soon. And for that I'm going to make Osmanoğlu İbrahim and Osmanoğlu Hızır cabinet members instead. You want all of your cabinet members to be from the Ottoman crown estate, so you get extra crown power. And then you want to pick the guy with the highest diplomatic stats, and who's preferably the youngest, as your head of cabinet, which again costs 5 legitimacy and a bit of money. But overall, we get 25% from the cabinet members and 25% from the head of cabinet, so 50% in total crown power for the cabinet that you set up here. Now after this we can choose our rivals. I'll usually choose Kilikia and the Trapezuntines. The Eretnids are also a solid choice, and you do not want to rival the Byzantines early on, and we will see why. And your heir, Süleyman Pasha, is also unmarried, so you cannot arrange a royal marriage, since there are no eligible young women in the Muslim world at the game start, and you do not have any young nobles either. So what you do usually is, you marry a lowborn, so at least you can start having children. And she has some decent stats. She has a pretty okay trait, but, well, she's a bit... I mean, she could be prettier, I guess. Okay, so let's go to our economy. We want something very interesting and very unusual for an EU5 game. You want your income to be as low as possible for the first month. So I'm going to set all of the minting and the taxes to 0. And I'm going to get the cost of court, stability, and most importantly, diplomatic spending to max. You want this slider at max for the entirety of the early game. And you can skimp out on stability, you can reduce this a bit, but usually you want this to be fairly high as well because the Black Death is coming and you will need that stability. And legitimacy is always good to have. But one thing that you can reduce from your expenses will be fort maintenance. You can put this down. Your forts will not be seeing much action in the early game. And you can almost always delete the fort in Izmit. Now I usually delete the fort in Bursa as well. You do not have to. Sometimes it's good to have it as a sort of insurance. But I tend to delete it because it's, once again, won't see much use in the early game. And you want to take your troops to Izmit over here. Now you want to take your cabinet, and your head of cabinet, the one with the decent diplomatic stats, should be running diplomatic endeavors. And the other two can stabilize the country and strengthen government for now. Very soon we will be getting some provinces that we can integrate, and at that moment we're going to switch these over to integration duties, but for now it's good for them to stabilizing and strengthening their country. And finally you want to make your ruler the head of your armies. And after this, we're just going to let the game flow until the 1st of May. It is the 1st of May, 1337. The rise of the Ottomans event has happened, and with it, the rise of the Turks situation has begun. And as you can see, it is our destiny to conquer the world. So now if we go to the situation panel, you can see that we have some main actions, some of them available to us because we are the strongest Beylik, the number one over here, with 29.90 country strength. And one of them is pressing claims. Now, if you played as the Ottomans before, you will note that pressing claims usually costs quite a bit, and in the early game it can cost up to 120 ducats actually. This is because pressing claims costs, I think, exactly the same as 2 months of your income. Now, I think there's a base cost maybe, because it looks like this is slightly more than 2 months, but in general it's going to be around 2 months of your income, minus the expenses. The expenses don't matter. And this is why, by putting our income to the lowest possible level, we managed to get this for extremely cheap. So we can press claims on Kütahya. It will be ours very soon, yes. And this is going to give us a very decent casus belli on the Germanids. We can also offer diplomatic protection to the Jandarids in exchange for Safranbolu, which is a very nice location overall. It produces saffron, and in fact it is named the city of saffron in Greco-Turkish. And it's already got some laborers, it's got a decent bunch of peasants, and a lot of slaves. So this will be decent to build up in the early game as well. Finally, since we have some money left over because pressing claims was so cheap, we can raise a bay fortress. I usually prefer Izmit for the first bay fortress, since it's going to give us extra control and extra prosperity to the location that we build it in. Now everything here is done. We also want to ally the Karamanids, so we can diplo-vassalize them once the war with Germian is over. And after this, you're going to declare war on Germian as soon as possible. You usually do not want to call in the Karamanids. They will assist you in the war, but they will also usually take some land around here, which you do not want. And in any case, you can fight and win this battle without Karaman's assistance. There we go, we are at war. And I'm also going to restore our budget over here. Keeping ulama low or at non-existent taxation is usually good because you can tax them a lot without pissing them off. The burghers, commoners, and especially the zimmi, you want to be taxing as highly as possible. And you can automate the tribes as well, but you basically won't be getting any tax from them at all. If you want, you can also dabble a bit with trade. Usually in the early game I find that the AI finds decent enough trades, and we don't usually have a lot of trades available to us either, because Byzantium usually dominates this market, at least until we've conquered them. And now we're going to wait, raise our levies, and we're going to wait for the Jandarids to respond to our diplomatic protection offer, and we're going to wait for the Germanids to be ready to fight with the levies raised. The Jandarids respond very soon, the next day in fact, and here they have accepted our offer of protection, so we are now guaranteeing them, and we have 30 mutual opinion and 10 mutual trust with them, as well as technically a royal marriage, but not quite, because it's part of the noble's estate. Now, what we're going to do is, we're going to wait for a while, have our levies raised, and then we are going to take our major armies to Kütahya, and this small regiment over here to Mihaletçik. You might want to automate replacing generals and admirals, and maybe trade as well at this point. But you want to go to your navies, and you want to make sure that all of your armies and your navies are being led by members of the crown estate. So you get an additional 25% crown power each, as you can see. This is for the armies, and this is for the levies. And usually you will not need any of your levies, naval levies at this point, so you can just keep one, and you can delete all of the rest, so they return to their RGOs and do not tank your economy. We actually got quite lucky, and we managed to hit the minor Beylik of Gendres and the Ottomans event. So we can give them a proposal they cannot refuse, although technically they have a 50% chance of refusing. And if they accept, they will become our vassal. The reason why I say that we got lucky for having this event is because it has a 3% monthly chance of happening. And then it also has a requirement that you have fewer than 2 vassals. And in a few months, in August specifically, we will be getting these 3 guys, the Karasids, Saruhanids, and the Aydinids, as vassals. So this was our one and only chance, along with July and August. So 3 chances to get this event. And hopefully, Jandar will accept and they will become our first vassals. And they did accept, so now we have our first vassal. As you can see, we have won the Battle of Kütahya, which gives us 25 war score and destroys the Germanid armies. Now, at this point, we want this regiment to capture the eastern areas. As you can see, there are 2 towns that we need to occupy here. And then we want to take the western army, consolidate, balance, and detach siege, and then take them to Gediz. Once again, detach siege, take them to Manisa through the southern route. If you go through the north, you will meet some Saruhanids, and they might have some orcs or some Uruk-hai amongst their numbers, which you do not want to fight with yet. So you gather your armies in Gediz. And you take them down to Laskiye. And hopefully they are being led by an Osmanoğlu. Manisa has been occupied, and it is time that we fight Saruman. Saruhan. And if you guys are not finding the Lord of the Rings jokes funny, it's because this is not actually the real flag of the Saruhanids. Way back when, in I believe EU3, someone realized that the name Saruhan sounds a lot like Saruman. So as a joke, they added the white hand to the flag of the Saruhanids, and nobody noticed for a while. And there's also, I believe, an event where as Aragorn, you can attack the Saruhanids, and it should give you some prestige. Or at least there used to be such an event in EU3 and EU4, so I'm not sure if they kept it. They probably did. Anyways, back to the actual war. The eastern provinces have been occupied, and in the west, our forces are attacking the Sarumanids. There we go. We have won that, and we want to win 1 or 2 battles here. Now, unfortunately, these guys will not be aiding us much as vassals because we destroyed their armies. But still, we need the war score cost in order to be able to peace out the Germanids in time. And there we go. Laskiye has been occupied. Birgi has been occupied. Kösemihal, also known as his Greek name Mikhail Kesses, has unfortunately passed away, so we will bury him and we will say that the Greek people are our brothers. Because as you can see, 60% of our population is Greek, and satisfying them will be very important at this point. And Birgi has also been occupied. Now if you're lucky, the Germanids will accept a peace at this point. I'm probably unlucky, so we will try. When you're going to full annex a small country and you have war score left over, you want to humiliate them first. And then you want to take their lands. If you take their lands first and then you humiliate them, it will not work. The game will not allow you to humiliate them. So we're going to wait for a bit longer. And we have 94% war score. That should allow us to also take full cash. And it is the 5th of August. Now the reason why you need to take care of the Germanid war so quickly is because there is a scripted event. See, Germanoğlu Yakup Bey starts the game at 79 years old. And the moment he dies, the Germanid vassals, Karasids, Sarumanids, and Aydinids, will be released, and they will become independent nations. At that point, you can still diplomatically vassalize them, or attack them and just conquer their lands, but it's going to take you more diplomats, or it's going to take you more military power. Instead, what you can do is peace out the Germanids, make sure you take all of Uşak along with the Inançit territories over here. It takes so long to integrate them otherwise. Again, humiliate them first, take their lands afterwards. And then, as you can see, all of their former vassals are our vassals now. And overnight, with a single peace deal, not only have we doubled the size of our country and doubled our population, we have also gained 3 vassals who together contribute almost 800,000 population, a sizable tax base. As you can see, we will be getting something like 5 ducats a month from them. And in general, these vassals will make it much easier for us to take the fight to the Byzantines, which I'm going to show you how to do in a moment. Now, after this war is over, you want to gather your soldiers up. And this is extremely important. You do not want to put down your levies. Usually when you're at peace, you go here and you disband all of the levies so as to not suffer from the food production and the RGO production penalties. But the way that the rise of the Turks situation works is, each beylik has a military strength value and a monthly trade and tax income value. And you want your military strength to be as high as possible, because if you let this drop low, the Eretnids will declare independence from the Celayirids in a moment, and they will surpass you as the most powerful beylik. Meaning, you will be locked out of the pressing claims action and a few other events as well, like the one that gave us the Jandarids as a vassal for free. So for now, we're going to keep our levies raised, we're going to keep them holed up in Izmit, and then we're going to wait until the 1st of May, 1338. But remember to form a new defensive league with Karaman. And then next month, you will be able to diplo-vassalize them. And this is an actually really good event, because it gives you some extra minting threshold and legitimacy. So when this hits, usually I'm going to go for they shall have what they need, and then I'm going to go here and increase my minting. And Karaman is now our vassal. But their map color hasn't changed, interestingly enough. There we go, it's changed. So now, most of Western Anatolia is under our control, and we don't have anything better to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to wait until the 1st of May, 1338, when we can offer diplomatic protection to the Hamidids. While we were waiting for the 1st of May, so that we could offer diplomatic protection to Hamid, the fall of the Ahis event has actually happened as well. This is, in fact, a somewhat rare event, so it has a 1% monthly chance of happening, and usually that translates to about a 10% chance of happening per month. So we kinda lucked out in this run, it seems. Now, this event can give you either an annexed casus belli on the Ahis, or you might be able to diplo-vassalize them more easily, or you can just get a bit of estate satisfaction. Obviously, you want to annex them, so you will take the first option, which incidentally gives you a bit of belligerent push as well. If this event does not happen, and in most of your runs it will not, you can spend a cabinet action, you can spend a parliament action for 50% parliamentary support, and then get a casus belli on the Ahis that way. Our Bey fortress in Izmit has finished constructing, and as you can see, we gain 10 prestige from constructing it, And also, the location itself gets 20% max control and 20.20% monthly control, which is a fairly strong modifier. Also, you get an extra 8.73% control and 7.64% prosperity. So when you look at the control map here, Izmit will be able to reach a max control of almost 97%, which is pretty much the same as our own capital. In May 1338, you will be able to offer diplomatic protection to the Hamidids in exchange for Gölisar. This will give you a border with the Menteşeits and the Tekkeids and allow you to continue your progress towards diplo-vassalizing the Western Beyliks. In addition, we have a religious figure of the Ash'ari school, whom will give us plus 5% monthly research progress when you invite him, which is going to be fairly useful. And hopefully, Hamid will accept. And obviously they did, because they love diplomacy as much as we do. Now, before this month is over, I want to spend my diplomats. I've already allied Tekke, and they will usually accept vassalization fairly soon. However, you can first go through the Hamidids, who have already a plus 30 modifier, thanks to the diplomatic protection here. So I will go through them, offer them an alliance, and they will accept becoming our vassal momentarily. However, since Tekke has a larger negative modifier here, I'm going to form a new defensive league with them. And hopefully they will accept allying me in a couple months as well. There we go. Next month they should accept. And Tekke is now our vassal. And Hamid will be our vassal as soon as we enter into a defensive league with them. Also note that Tekke has actually eaten up Alaya, so sometimes if you leave these Beyliks alone for long enough, Hamid can take out Sahip Adates, Tekke can take out Alaya. I've even seen Karaman eat Tekke and then vassalize Hamid, only to be vassalized by my own country in return. So right now, amongst the Anatolian Beyliks, only the Menteşeits remain, and they're at war with the Knights Hospitaller, and it looks like they're winning. Hopefully they will be able to capture Rhodes, and we will not have to deal with the Knights ourselves. Sometimes the game will also allow you to seek relations with Byzantium, which gives you the Byzantine diplomacy event. Now for this to be available, you need at least 60 legitimacy, which is why we cranked up the cost of the court slider even though our income isn't so nice. And if they recognize us as the sovereign of Anatolia, it will give us 0.10 monthly legitimacy and plus 10% speed of integration, which will make integrating Kütahya and Uşak much faster. Also, we can raise another Bey fortress, and this time I'm going with Bursa. Even though it's our capital, so we will be unable to benefit from the extra control that this fortress gives. As you can see here, it also gives quite a bit of monthly manpower and local crown power, which is always good to have in your capital. Furthermore, once we eventually move our capital to Constantinople, the monthly control effects, the max control effects, will also come into play, and simply building the fortress itself gives the location quite a bit of prosperity. Now at this point, we only need to wait for the Byzantine response And as you can see, they don't always accept. So sometimes we lose a tiny bit of legitimacy and we miss out on the integration bonuses. But that's quite okay. So we're only going to wait until the 1st of May, 1339. And then we will take the fight to the Byzantines. Assuming that the Mentechetes have not finished their war by then, we will not have all of Anatolia under our control, but quite a sizable portion. Since Menteche starts the game with a vassal, they will usually not accept allying you because of the need to pay to maintain the relation. However, you do have one ace up your sleeve. You can propose a royal marriage between your daughter Fatma and their heir. It is imperative that you do not marry their actual leader at the start of the game, because he's 53 years old, and if he dies, the royal marriage will dissolve. And there we go, we get a bit of prestige. And we will get plus 10 reasons for the royal marriage to their vassalization acceptance. And eventually, we will be able to ally them once they have finished annexing Tavas. And through that, we will be able to diplo-vassalize them. Now, as you can see, we have Osmanoğlu Ibrahim, whom we can also marry off, but we do not want to marry him out of the country yet. And since there are some nobles actually, we can just marry that noble. Being Muslim allows you to have up to 4 wives per dynasty, so your Osmanoğlus can actually breed like rabbits, and you can always keep all of your general positions and your cabinet filled with members of the crown estate, much easier than you could in a Western European state, for example. And at this point, we have nothing better to do but to wait until the 1st of May, 1339. And we get another Bay Fortress here. Unfortunately, the Mentechetes won't accept the alliance. If they did, we would be able to assist them in their fight against the Nice Hospitaller. But alas, it will not come to pass. So, it is the 1st of May 1339, and we're going to disband all of our levies. We're going to disband all of our naval levies as well. And we are going to press claims on Kocaeli. Now, if you want, you can really cheese this out by reducing your income in the previous month as well. But since we are getting some diplomacy income, it will not be as useful, and it would only have saved us something like 20 ducats, so I'm not going to cheese it for now. And we could technically offer diplomatic protection to one of these guys, but we're going to annex them using this CB anyways, and it's going to happen very soon. Now, we have claims on province CB on the Byzantines, and that means we can declare war on them. So they do have their armies and their navies up. Sometimes the Byzantines will be stuck by their disaster and their entire army will be obliterated, and you can just walk into their lands and capture everything. But in this case, we're going to have to fight this war the old-fashioned way. It's very important that you set your subjects to be aggressive, especially the Aydinids. If you look here, the Aydinids actually begin the game with a sizable navy, and they can usually beat the Byzantine navy in a fair fight. And interestingly enough, the Byzantines also have captured Chios somehow, but that's not going to be very relevant to our fight here. So we're going to wait until all of our levies have been raised, and then I will show you how to defeat the Byzantines. Our levies have been raised, and now we're going to start fighting the Byzantines. Let's balance this unit. The first things you want to do is you want to move your main stack here to Chalcedona, and you want to gather up your troops and also attack Philadelphia and Herakleia Pontique. And why is this? Because as you can see, the Byzantines will will usually have a significant stack, almost 2000 men, in Chalcedona, and if you attack here quickly enough, you can stack wipe them. Now our main goal in this war will be to find the main Byzantine army, and then do the same to them. Just stack wipe them when they're low on morale, when they're stranded in enemy territory, and then once their army has been destroyed, the Balkans will lie open for us to enter, occupy, and then raid for slaves. There's a neat little trick that you can use to capture Constantinople sooner than you would expect, but if you're not going to use that, obviously this siege will take quite a while. I've seen it fall in 2 years, I've seen it fall in 10 years. It really depends. It's not as easy to get in the early game as one would expect. The reason why the Identite vassal is so powerful here is because, as I mentioned earlier, they have some galleys, regular galleys, and using them, especially if you set them to aggressive stance, they can get naval superiority over the Sea of Marmara, which includes the Bosphorus. So now you can use your own navies to ferry troops from Izmit all the way over here to Lapseki. And this is going to take much shorter than what you would be able to do otherwise. And Heraklia Pontike has been sieged. So usually you want these guys to attach to your own troops, the Jandroids I mean. Philadelphia has been sieged, so we're going to take these guys out and then move on to Chios. And then with our soldiers here, we're going to cross over to Gallipoli, and then we're going to try and catch the Byzantine army and wipe them out. And it's going to be a whole load of whack-a-mole, really. So this is not going to be an interesting period in the histories of the Ottoman Empire. Looks like the Byzantines are heading for Bursa, which probably looks like a fairly biteable target to them, especially since we destroyed the castle there. However, they will not be expecting 8,000 Ottoman troops to appear just behind them, and once again, come on, Aydeniz, why aren't you attacking these guys? Ugh, bloody Aydin. The AI in this game. Okay, I'm just going to take my troops through the... and now you decide to fight. Oh my god. Yeah, this is just utterly ridiculous. But okay, we should still be able to catch them in Bursa. And that should allow us to effectively stack wipe them, or at least damage them quite significantly. And there we go, Bandırma. That's a stack wipe. And now we can stack wipe these guys. And then the Byzantines after them. And then after that, all of the Balkans will be ours to take. So that is the second Byzantine army destroyed. And hopefully in a moment... Oops. Come to Bilecik. Come on. There we go. Third Byzantine army destroyed. And now if you look here, they only have 400 men left. And the Epirotes have about 1,500 men left. Now, since we have naval superiority now over the Sea of Marmara, we're going to try and occupy the Balkans. And then that will hopefully push the Byzantines out, push the Byzantine navy out, where the Aydenids can just eliminate them entirely. In the meantime, it might be a good idea to actually continue sieging Constantinople just in case, but hopefully with the trick that we will be using, that will not be necessary at all. Incidentally, it is time for our first parliament. We can hold this outside the capital for a slight decentralizing push. And then usually you want to increase ties to neighbors. The gravel road one is pretty good, but we don't have enough money to build those roads anyways at this point. And in fact, we are running so deep underwater, it might be prudent to disable some of these, or at least lower them. Okay, I'm going to lower this down to like 0.50 is okay. And I'm going to lower this to 0.03. And then next month I'll definitely take a look at trade. So for the Divan, the parliament, what you want to do is, early in the game, you want two CBs, one on the Ahis and one on the Eretnets. Now the Ahi CB is not 100% necessary. As you've seen, there's an event which has about a 50% chance of happening within 5 years, and I think 75-80% chance of happening within the next 10 years. That gives you a free annexation CB, so we already have that annexation CB. And for the Eretnets, there is a case to be made for ignoring them entirely and using one of the situation claims to take them. But the way that this works is, right now they're in an independence war against the Jelirids, and if we let the Jelirids win, they will be a Jelirid vassal again. And usually the Jelirids win. I've never seen the Eretnets break free successfully. So we do not want to deal with the Jelirid cavalry, who are extremely strong because they are horde at this stage of the game. So usually you want to get the claims on the Eretnets, and you will not be able to full annex them using just the parliament claims, but you can just reduce them to a rump state. And then we're going to push for extra support here. Unfortunately, we didn't get a lot of good stuff, so probably not worth pushing for these last two, since you can't get additional support that way. But maybe if we get a 10% event. And after that, as I said, we could have gotten a CB on the Ahis, but the event gave that to us. So we're going to ask for law changes. And the first law that you want to change is usually the distribution of power, since traditional distribution gives you a minus 10% crown power, whereas favor the ruler gives you plus 20%, along with plus 5% maximum tax. So definitely go for this one. It's really a freebie, it's fairly decent. And then if we get maybe a couple decent events, we might be able to pass a second law as well. I'm particularly hoping for the urban parliament seat, but we can never know. Now regarding the Constantinople situation, I'm going to show you a neat trick in one moment. And in the meanwhile, let's just let our vassals take care of the Balkans. Let's take these guys to Chios. So we have our armies in Constantinople, and I'm going to show you a borderline exploit that lets you take Constantinople literally 2 years into the game. What you're going to do is, you're going to detach your levies and move them over to the other side of the Bosphorus. Now it's crucial, and I can't stress this enough, it is crucial that you have naval superiority over the Sea of Marmara, and that you control Chalcedona and Helaitai when you're doing this trick. Oh, well, I didn't even need to do the trick. Okay, the AI actually did it for me. So what happens is, when you have a very small force, in this case just your 250 regulars, besieging Constantinople, the enemy will presume that that's the only army you got. However, if your levies are on the other side of the Bosphorus, or in this case, they were moving to the other side of the Bosphorus, that means they can partake in the fight. Now, if they were on the other side of the Bosphorus, we would have had to be extremely precise with our timings. So, from my trial runs, the AI actually sallies forth from the siege in, I believe, 5 to 8 days. So usually you want to time it so that your armies will arrive 8 days after they leave. Otherwise, if you wait until the enemy has sallied forth and then take your troops back, your regulars will already be dead and the siege will continue. But in this case, obviously the AI did our job for us by sallying forth preemptively. So now we're just going to watch the Byzantines die. And there we go. The siege of Constantinople is successful. The armies are dead. And it is December 39. Just look at that. Just look how insane it is. We managed to capture the city of the world's desire, which in history the Ottomans took 10 years to siege down, and then they still couldn't capture it because Timur arrived from the east and then forced Bayezid the Thunderbolt to lift the siege and then move back over to Anatolia. And we managed to capture it in 3 months. Well, a bit longer than that actually, 7 months, if you're counting from the very start of the war. But in any case, Constantinople is ours, and soon enough, so will the entire Byzantine Empire be ours. At this stage, since you're more or less done with the Byzantines and your vassals will be more than enough to occupy their Balkan provinces, you want to focus in Anatolia a bit. Now, why is this? If you look at the press claims action here, you can clearly see that we cannot press claims again until the 1st of May 1341. So we have about 1.5 years during which we can't really do anything. And how are we going to spend those 1.5 years? We're going to go down here to Izmit. There we go. And then we're going to disband all of our levies. Now, unfortunately, these guys were beaten back by the Byzantines. There we go. We can disband them now. And then we're going to use our CBs to attack the Ahis and attack the Eretnids at the same time. But why does this cost us? Oh, we have good relations with them. Okay. Your mother was a hamster and your father smells of elderberries. So we will declare war on the Eretnids 1 month later, unfortunately. Where are you guys? Come on. 21st of January. There we go. And it still costs us. Is it like good relations? I don't know. Whatever. We can eat 10 stab, that's like more than okay. And then we're going to once again raise our levies. And you also want your naval levies raised, so you can send some guys over via the sea to take Trebizond. And there we go, this is the event that we wanted. By granting Iznik an urban parliament seat, we can get 25% support in the Divan. Now the thing with the parliament is, you don't lose anything. You only lose like 7 stability if you let the issue fail. And if you look at this, the Ahis, the Sayipataids, the Byzantines, we are going to annex all of these guys within the next 2 years. And 5 diplomats does sound nice, but it's nothing to write home about. So we can just let this fail. And in exchange, we can pass really good laws. We can get an additional CB on someone. We can ask for larger levies. We can get additional taxes, anything. So usually for the early parliaments, it's much better to simply let the issue fail and then get something else that you want using the parliament support that you get. And in this case, I'm going to go with the powerful harem for that extra 10% crown power, and more importantly, allowing females in cabinet. And this is important because you're going to get a lot of really, really good females that you can post in the cabinet, and you can reserve your males to use them as generals or admirals. Whereas in the other case, you would be suffering from one side or the other. Either you would have not as good cabinet ministers as you would like, since we already have 4 and we're going to get 5 relatively soon, or alternatively, you would be suffering from a lack of good generals and admirals. Anyways, this is also a really nice Rise of the Turks situation event, and you can either get 7 stability, or you can get 20% integration, or rather, you can get 10% integration in one province, so in this case Kütahya, and 7 stability, or you can get 20% and 5 communalism. And at this stage of the game, communalism is better because revoking privileges is going to be necessary eventually, but it's not really that big of a deal. And I think I'm going to go with the 20% integration increase, because the faster we can integrate these lands, the easier, the faster that we can start getting some goods from them. Okay, so our goal here will be to take these armies to Ankara, and we're going to send our navy up north and take these guys to Trebizond. Now, if you would remember, we wiped out the Trebizondine army, so they can't raise any levies. And then down here, we have nothing better to do, so we can just join our guys over here as well. And the eventual goal will be to take out these Beyliks, siege down Eretna's main force, and then siege down Trebizond. And it is the 15th of June 1340. As you can see, we are besieging quite a lot of forts. When you're dealing with the Eretnets, usually most of their armies will actually be in the east, trying to fight the Gelirids, but in case that they decide to retreat back to Anatolia, it's good to take note of their levies, and in this case they have about 4,000 men. So you want your own armies to be in that range as well. These guys are a bit weak, but hopefully our vassals can reinforce them. And once our vassals, the Karamanids, manage to siege down Kayseri, that should be okay. So we want to be sieging down these 3 castles as soon as possible, and preferably at the same time. And we want to be sieging down Trebizond. You will be suffering a bit of attrition from the lack of food, because the Trebizond market is just terrible when it comes to food. And as you can see, we've got the Saibatites over here who have been fully occupied, and the Ahis, their armies have been destroyed, and now we are just working on occupying Ankara as well. As for the Byzantines, well, you see, the Byzantines do not exist anymore, except for this small patch in Moria, and hopefully our vassals will be able to take care of that one as well. And now this is just going to be waiting. We're just going to be fighting against the clock and not any of our actual enemies. The sieges have all been completed. We now occupy Kayseri, Sivas, Şebinkarahisar, Ankara and the Saibatites, and even Trebizond. So we have achieved almost 100% war score in pretty much all of our wars. And we can start piecing people out. So usually you want to start with the Saibatites here. And once again, humiliate someone before you take their land and their money. And same deal with the Ahis. Humiliate them, take all of their land, take all of their money. So with the Eretnets, unfortunately, we will not be able to take all of their land. But we can still take quite a decent chunk. So something like this over here usually goes well. Maybe even here. I think it would leave them a bit separated, so might as well get the gold instead. And unfortunately we will be unable to humiliate them, since the lands that we want cost too much for there to be leftover war score for the humiliation. However, as I mentioned earlier, the Trebizondine market is terrible for food. And as you would have realized, you are probably still going to be fighting this war for a bit longer, at least until May 41, so for the next 3 months. So it might be a good idea to hold off on the Eretnet truce yet. But in this case I'm going to take them anyways, because the wealth of Anatolia will be in the palm of our hand with the trunk road privilege. Also, at this point you will have another daughter who will be of marriageable age, and you can usually get a royal marriage with the Mamluks as well. And in the early game you should definitely get a royal marriage with the Menteşeits, and as you can see we already have one, I think. And if you were unable to vassalize Teke, it's also a good idea to get one with them. But in the mid game, after you got most of your vassals in Anatolia taken care of, the Mamluks are the next good opportunity. And it's going to be a while until you can actually defeat them in battle because of their huge levy size and their professional armies here. So usually it's good to secure your southern border that way. And I'm going to marry off my daughter to the Mamluks. And usually it's good to go for the heir, as I mentioned earlier. It is the 30th of May, 1341. I actually missed the monthly tick here, unfortunately. So we're going to be getting this 1 month later than you should be getting this. And once again, we're going to press claims immediately. So you want all of your incomes to be zeroed out. There we go. And perhaps more importantly, you want to take Trebizond. Again, humiliate them first, take all of their money and take all of their land. And then you want to go here, make the Byzantines your rival, and then do the same with them. But unfortunately, we will not be able to humiliate them in this instance. We're just going to take all of their land. And we're not going to annex Epirus. We're going to take a bit of extra cash instead, because obviously we will be pretty strapped for cash. There we go. Seize that land. Keep the Patriarchate. You're going to need the extra tolerance of heathens, especially considering that 2/3 of your country is heathens and a good 10% is heretics. And what else? We need another rival. We already have Kilikia. Usually Bulgaria is a good idea here because we're going to be attacking them at the start of the next month. And there we go. We can now press claims. We can create another Bay Fortress. And more importantly here, now that we have Constantinople, you want to be taking this guy over, increasing provincial control in Byzantium, because this will begin at 0 control next month. We still have some control for this month, but it will reset at the monthly reset, and we definitely do not want that. We want our maximum control to be as high as possible, since this is going to be our new capital. And now we just let the game roll for 1 more month, and our cannons will blot out the sun. But before that, the city of the world's desire is now ours. At last, we have conquered Constantinople, where many Muslim commanders of ages past failed before the might of the Theodosian walls. The great Roman city would be a fitting capital for our Beylik, and indeed it shall be a fitting capital. So what this option does is, there we go, it turns Byzantium and the province of Byzantium into a core. We get a small amount of development, we get the active Firman, which gives extra migration attraction, and it becomes our new capital. And the Greeks in there gain a bit more pop satisfaction as well. Meanwhile, Bursa, our old capital, will continue acting as a local proximity source, giving us plus 70 proximity in the near future for, I believe, 30 years, yeah. So there we go, it shall be a fitting capital, and our cannons will blot out the sun. Okay, Constantinople is ours. We have become a Beylik on 2 continents, and soon enough we will become an empire once we annex Bulgaria and Serbia. But for that, you're going to have to wait a bit, because this episode is already getting a bit too long, and I'm going to have to put a cut in here. And I'll see you guys in the next episode.